Throughout the life of the Yu-Gi-Oh series, there have been a few spin-off versions to the traditional Yu-Gi-Oh dueling style. This is where the normal dueling style we all know is thrown out of the window in place of some really weird and wacky variants. Now, before we begin, it's important to understand the significance of the rule changes in the spin-off duels by first knowing what the baseline of Yu-Gi-Oh is. And what is that baseline? Well, it's Master Rule dueling. Master Rule Yu-Gi-Oh is where both you and your opponent have 8,000 starting life points. You both have a starting deck of between 40 and 60 cards made up of monsters, spells and traps, and you begin a duel by drawing 5 cards as your opening hand. You then proceed to use those cards to damage each other's life points. You continue this until one of you runs out of life points. The one left standing is declared the winner. It's worth noting that as of this video, we are at Master Rule 4, which means the field is currently made up of 2 extra monster zones, 5 main monster zones, 5 spell and trap zones with the 2 end zones being pendulum zones. As well, we also have a field zone, main deck zone, graveyard zone, and extra deck zone. And speaking of extra deck, we might as well mention that we have 5 variations of extra deck cards: Fusion, Synchro, Xyz, Pendulum, and Link. This is where the game has evolved to, so this will be our baseline from here on out. So with that out of the way, let's jump into my top 10 spin-off styles of dueling. At number 10, we have Concentration Dueling, first appearing in Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's episode 116. A concentration duel is a mashup between the rules of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game along with the mechanics of the real-world card game, Concentration. If you don't know how normal concentration is played, basically it's a game which tests a person's memory and luck. It is played by spreading out an entire deck of cards across a table. Each player takes it in turns to turn over 2 cards, aiming to get a matching pair. If it's a match, they keep the cards and go again. The winner is the player with the most amount of cards at the end of the game. Concentration dueling, however, is essentially all of the normal dueling mechanics, rules and zones of standard dueling. However, each player's main deck is spread out in front of them face down. They do not have a hand, but instead, 3 times per turn, they can randomly choose one of their face down cards and declare an action with it. You can only use one of each of the types of actions per turn, which are to summon a monster, to activate a spell, or to activate a trap. After one of these actions has been declared, the card is flipped over. If it is the said card type and it can be used at that time, then the card is played. However, if the revealed card is the wrong type or the timing is incorrect, the player will have to place the card back to its original position. As well, both that card and action type become unavailable for the rest of the turn. In honesty, I never would have thought these 2 card games could have been brought together. However, the result is an interesting one. Having the Yu-Gi-Oh game with an added layer of memory tests could be a genuine challenge for many people, since Yu-Gi-Oh already relies on both players having to remember so much about their own decks, along with what their opponents have in their deck too. As well, throwing in an extra level of randomness into the game could result in some really unique styles of dueling, since duelists could risk looking at random cards in their spread to build the pieces for a powerful combo later in the duel. This would be, of course, at the cost of potentially your opponent getting a monster first and doing some hefty early damage. Also, I like to imagine the sensation for risking a clutch spell when you're in a pinch, and through just pure chance, you get the card you need. It's an interesting idea in premise. However, for this list, I also want to judge the spin-off dueling styles and how possible they could be brought to the real world. With concentration dueling, I imagine 90% of the time, duelists are probably just going to brick. The duel will then turn into just a back and forth until someone gets a monster first, and then I imagine that the player who got the monster first will probably just go off after that, since they know the majority of their face down cards. So I think that would make it near impossible for the other player to make a bounce back. Also, I guess the rules could be abused simply by making a deck entirely out of monster cards, since this would guarantee you a summon every single turn without risk. So you'd have to create some extra rules, like you must have a minimum of 10 of each type, monster, spells and traps, and then you can just sort of put 10 extra monsters in or 10 extra spells or whatever you kind of fancy for the rest of them. I guess that could make it just a little bit more balanced. Regardless, I think it's a fun premise and it could absolutely be played at home right now by you. So why don't you go play that right now and tell me if it really is as unbalanced as I think it would be. Let me know. And number 9, we have sealed booster pack draft duels, first appearing in Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters episode 46. Interestingly, this dueling variation has actually become quite common in the real world. We can see a great example of this in the anime when Joey duels Duke Devlin. In this style of duel, a player does not use their own personal decks. Instead, they are given 5 unopened packs to create a deck from. The idea is to choose the best cards you were lucky enough to pull in order to create a deck of either 20, 30 or 40 cards depending on the tournament rules. The real beauty of this format is that everyone is equal, as all the participants are using cards from the same card pool. This means that new Yu-Gi-Oh players or players who just don't have the budget to buy the most expensive meta cards can finally be on equal footing to those that can. So now, with pay to win out of the way, all that's left is luck and one's own ability to build the most efficient deck to use in a duel. Now, in terms of innovation, yeah, it might seem like this type of dueling is pretty much exactly like normal dueling, apart from the way you build the deck. However, there is actually a few unique variations to the rules for this style of dueling you might not know. According to the official Konami sealed pack rulings, if you're lucky enough to pull more than 3 of the same card, then you're actually more than welcome to play all of the copies you pulled in your main deck. So for example, let's say you pulled 5 Beast King Barbarosses, then you can play all 5 of them in the deck. Also, there is no extra deck limit, so if you pull more than 15 extra deck monsters, feel free to use them all. And fun fact, all of your leftover cards that don't make it into your main deck actually become a part of your side deck, which, just like the extra deck, has no size limit. So, yeah, side away, my friend. I think this style of dueling is perfect at the number 9 spot. It can be enjoyed by anyone and creates an equalness between the two duelists. I dare not put it any higher on the list, as at the end of the day, it is more or less the traditional dueling style, so it loses points in terms of innovation. However, from personal experience of playing in a draft duel tournament, I think it's a lot of fun and I would highly recommend it because it's really good. And number 8, we have action duels, first appearing in Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5, episode 1. Now, action duels, I will admit, they're not for everyone. If you're somebody that likes the comfort of playing Yu-Gi-Oh! In a chair, this isn't for you. Action duels are essentially where you duel in a giant arena with loads of climbable surfaces, ramps and environmental things that all spawn thanks to the help of solid vision. Solid vision allows augmented reality to become physically tangible, and not just for the environment, but also for the monsters. This means that duelists can run about, climb up surfaces, and even ride their own monsters in a duel. I like the idea of this for many reasons. It creates a more visually appealing duel as duelists are running about, dodging attacks, and making death-defying jumps to acquire the action duel exclusive cards known as action cards. Yes, the reason why you need to run around and parkour everywhere is because at the same time the environment spawns in, so does a bunch of action cards which are scattered throughout the arena. Action cards come in a few varieties, but at their core they are split between spells that benefit the player and traps that give detrimental effects to the player. Because of this, it's always important to be careful whenever you grab one, because you never know whether it'll be good or bad. But if all hope is lost and the incoming attack spells, let's say, the end of your duel, then risking an action card for possibly an instant dodge, well, it's a no-brainer. One of the biggest benefits of this type of dueling is that if you were an entertainment duelist competing in these type of events all the time, you would be in such good shape. Since not only would you have to playtest with your deck before a tournament, you would also probably be given a personal trainer by whatever company is sponsoring you, meaning you'd look absolutely dench while you dueled. And you would have to be in order to get a physical advantage over your opponent. You want to be able to sprint to that action card before your opponent can. Parkour plus Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a future I never really knew I wanted until I saw it. However, how realistic would action dueling be? Well, let's go through each of the mechanics, shall we? Action cards. Yeah, you can implement them. Get some guy to scatter the cards around in a big room or something, or even better, just get like a confetti cannon on the roof, blast them all over the gaff. If they land face up, then you get a tactical advantage because you know what they are. If they land face down, it's a risk-reward kind of scenario. You might need to adjust the rules a little bit so you can only pick up, say, 1 action card per turn, and possibly only hold 1 action card at a time as well, as people might spend a bit too much time running around collecting cards. So a bit of revision to this could be in order, because you don't want people just running around too much and not dueling. So how about realism in terms of solid vision? Well, sadly, I don't think we will ever be riding on top of our monsters. In fact, just think of all the things people would do when they can give real mass to Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Oh no. Oh no. However, the idea of a parkour-inspired arena with a confetti cannon on the roof that blasts a bunch of cards onto the field, I like it. It does sound like a lawsuit waiting to happen, but if it means I get to play parkour Yu-Gi-Oh, then I will happily sign a disclosure waiver where if I lose all my teeth, I can't sue. Yeah, absolutely. At number 7, we have Labyrinth Dueling, first appearing in Duel Monsters, episode 19. The Labyrinth Duel only appeared once in the series. It happened in Duelist Kingdom at the behest of the Paradox Brothers. The duel started out as any other, however after Labyrinth War was played, the field completely changed. The normal dueling rules were still sort of in effect, however the field was now a 9x9 grid, interspliced with walls that formed a maze. In this style of duel, a monster now needs to move in order to get in a 1 square proximity of an opponent's monster in order to attack. Their amount of moves are determined by their monster's level. So a level 1 monster will only be able to move 1 space, whereas a level 12 can move anywhere between 1 and 12 spaces. Based on the anime, the way to win is to either reduce your opponent's life points down to 0 by attacking the monsters, or to reach one of the 2 doorways at the ends and to solve the riddle in order to defeat the Paradox Brothers. However, guess what? This type of dueling actually has been attempted to be brought to life in the real world. The Yu-Gi-Oh manga attempted it, weirdly enough, in Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelist Volume 4. It had a printout for the rules, field, and monsters, and in that version it was quite a bit different from the anime one as well, as it was exclusively 2-player only, and the grid was now 16 by 11. In it, rather than drawing cards, each player chooses 7 monsters that total 20 stars altogether. They then place the 7 monsters onto the starting points on the field. The game then plays out just like it does in the anime, with both players taking it in turns to move around the labyrinth to get close enough to battle. 3 monsters are allowed to move per turn. Monsters cannot move past spaces occupied by an opponent's monster, though they can for friendly ones. After every movement of a monster is made, it is then placed in either an attack position or a defensive position. Battling works just like it does in normal Yu-Gi-Oh as well, except for one gigantic difference, and that is if 2 or more monsters are facing an opponent's monster, the player can attack with all of them together, uniting all their attack values together, and that sum total is their attack value. A winner is declared when someone destroys all of their opponent's monsters. Overall, I really like the idea and strategy behind this style of dueling. It combines the tactics of chess and Yu-Gi-Oh together. Being able to move monsters around the board and positioning them so you have, let's say, 3 hulking monsters going to town on a Watapon could make for some absolute comedy moments in a duel. Would I say the rules as they stand could be brought into the real world? Possibly. It seems like a game mode that could get boring quite quickly. However, with some revisions to the mechanic, maybe an increased board size, make it a little bit bigger. How about let players use their actual own decks as well? Keep the life points at 8,000 just like in the anime as well, and allow spells and traps to be set like at random locations on the board. Maybe put like little magnets underneath the board where you decide to place them. I don't know, there's like a few different ways you could do this. I think you could have yourself a winner here. But for now, Labyrinth Dueling sits at number 7. At number 6, we have Battle Royale Dueling, first appearing in a few different Yu-Gi-Oh series. Now, when I say Battle Royale, I am legitimately talking about the same kind that's taken the world by storm now. Things like Fortnite, Apex Legends, Tetris 99, they all have no idea that the real original Battle Royale was Maximilian Pegasus's Duelist Kingdom Battle Royale tournament. Pegasus set it up so 40 skilled duelists would be set loose on an island and forced to duel each other for 40 hours straight until only one was left. You'd collect star chips as proof of victories in a duel, and while the island didn't get smaller constantly with a ring of death, we instead got that as the final few people were left in the tournament, the Battle Royale moved into a castle for the finale, where it turned into a traditional tournament. And I thought that was a great idea. In fact, there's been a few more modern versions of this. Things like Kaiba's Battle City, which took place in an entire city. Yu-Gi-Oh! GX's Gen X tournament, that was another Battle Royale I think. And in Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5, there was an actual Battle Royale tournament in like that augmented reality kind of space with all the different environments and stuff. That was awesome. The question then becomes, in terms of real world implementation, the normal dueling mechanics are in effect here, so that's pretty much sorted. However, the huge scale of the battle royales would probably not be feasible. I mean, unless Konami fancies doing an event where they hire an entire island out and just set 100 duelist loose until only one remains. That could be cool. Hunger Games meets Yu-Gi-Oh! Anyone? The biggest roadblock, however, is the lack of real-world duel discs. So the question becomes, how do we duel each other on foot? Well, there are two solutions to this. One is to create a Yu-Gi-Oh! Battle Royale video game where duelists skydive down and duel each other on an ever-enclosing battlefield. You can do loads of stuff with this. You could have like an ancient Egyptian area, you could have battle city kind of things. You can even implement the kind of other type of battle royale where if two people are dueling, a third player can come in at the cost of like their life points, and you can just keep doing that with as many duelists as possible. So, I don't know. There's some ideas there. Or, even better, create a all-digital duel disc, which, funnily enough, I've been talking about in some of my recent videos. So yeah, an ARM-mounted all-digital duel disc, Konami. The ball is in your court now. At number 5, we have Speed Dueling, first appearing in Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains, Episode 2. Quick fun fact, by the way, Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains, the first Yu-Gi-Oh! series that doesn't have a single duel in its first episode. It's crazy. In the Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains series, a new type of dueling exists where people would duel in virtual reality on dueling surfboards. They would surf around on data storms using the speed dueling format. What is the speed dueling format? Well, it's basically a revised rule set created to make duels faster. The differences between a speed duel and a regular duel is that both players start with 4 cards instead of 5. The main phase 2 is completely gone. Both players have only 3 main monster zones and 3 spell and trap zones. As well, the extra monster zones are aligned slightly different, and a new type of mechanic has been added known as skills. A skill grants a player a unique ability that they can use in a duel if a certain criteria is met. Unfortunately, if we wanted to bring dueling on a surfboard into reality, it might prove a bit difficult. Though, dueling in virtual reality, now that is something that is very much attainable. In fact, I really do hope that we see a polished virtual reality game at some point in the future, as that's the most realistic way that we could have just normal dueling like they do on the show, and it would be amazing, right? And hey, if you want to throw in some surfing around as we duel, I'd be all up for that. That could work. Moving past the card games on surfboards, in terms of speed dueling rule sets, we actually have 2 real-world variations to this. One is the mobile and PC game known as Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links that uses the speed duel format for its gameplay. The other is a real-world speed dueling trading card game with new cards, fields, and mechanics. What I like about speed dueling is that it isn't just the mechanics being simplified. For speed dueling, the pool of cards that you can use has been turned back to a much simpler time, with the Duel Links game being back in the Synchro era and the Speed Duel TCG being all the way back at the Duel Monsters era. Honestly, it's so refreshing to be able to play a more slow-paced Yu-Gi-Oh! Where you actually have a back and forth with your opponent and people aren't just going off with all these massive combos and you don't see your turn for like half an hour. Honestly, I really hope they could keep the format and the fusion and ritual era for the real world game, and maybe instead just innovate on the skills rather than the extra deck summoning mechanics. However, we all know that this probably won't be the case since Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains has already had all of the summoning mechanics appear. Apart from Pendulum though, interestingly. To summarise, speed duels are a fresh alternative to the traditional Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game. And when VR dueling becomes a thing, that is going to be really awesome. At number 4, we have Deckmaster Dueling, first appearing in Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters episode 99. Deckmaster Duels first appeared in the virtual world arc of the anime. These style of duels were almost identical to regular dueling. However, each duelist at the start of the duel chose 1 card in their main or extra deck to act as their Deckmaster. The chosen monster then stands by the duelist's side, not actually classed as being on the field until the duelist decides to special summon it. What makes the Deckmasters unique is that they have a mechanic that allows them to have their own unique skills that they can use in a duel. In fact, wait a minute, this sounds familiar? This is just speed dueling, except with a monster instead of a skill. So the question then becomes, why is Deckmaster Dueling higher up on the list to speed dueling if they're essentially the same thing? Well, first up, Deckmaster Dueling uses the Master Duel field, so we get 5 spaces and everything, so that's actually, that's a plus. As well, choosing a monster to represent your ace that stands by your side, I think is like a reflection of kind of how you see yourself, or just I don't know, it shows your personality, doesn't it? However, the real reason why I like the Deckmasters is because they can actually enter the duel at any point, since whenever you're in a pinch, you can special summon it as, I imagine, like a quick play spell card. It's a quick play special summon, and you can use this at any time during the duel. However, it doesn't come without a risk, as if the Deckmaster is destroyed, then the owner of the monster loses the duel. Now this really creates a risk-reward kind of scenario. Do you summon your Deckmaster early on in the duel to gain an advantage at the risk of its destruction and an instant loss? Or do you wait till when your life points are at a critical risk and then you send your Deckmaster in to keep you in the duel? What's interesting as well is that the anime expands on this mechanic as well, since if a Deckmaster is tributed to summon another monster, or it's used as a fusion material for a newer monster, then the new monster becomes the new Deckmaster. And this opens up a whole host of combos and abilities. Now, I can't remember if Deckmasters can use their abilities whilst they're actually on the field as well, but if that's the case, do you use your Deckmaster's ability, summon it to the field, attack, tribute your new Deckmaster to summon a new Deckmaster, then use that Deckmaster's ability again? So, I don't know, it opens up a whole host of new abilities. A couple examples of some Deckmaster abilities we've seen in the anime include Dark Magician Girl, who has the skill Soul's Circle, which is during your turn, you can reveal one card from the top of your deck for each monster in your graveyard, then add one of them to your hand. That's pretty damn powerful. Lord of Dragons has the ability once per turn, you can pay 500 life points to normal summon one dragon type monster in addition to your normal summon or set. And we have Dark Magician, whose skill is Double Magic. During your turn, you can pay 1000 life points to activate a spell effect twice. Now, of course, this pretty much has already been adapted into the real world in terms of speed dueling. However, you could bring Deckmaster duels into the real world quite easily, either in a video game, I guess, or just as easily you could actually make it as another spin-off style of real world card game. Just create a new Deckmaster zone and give every monster card their own unique Deckmaster ability that you can find out by checking online, let's say. Saves you reprinting all the cards anyway. Or hang on a minute, idea, one day down the line, maybe Master Rule speed dueling, because that wouldn't make it speed dueling, but still, you know what I'm talking about, and make some skills that are actual monster cards that behave like Deckmasters. It's perfect. Konami, take my idea. Send me money. And that also ties back to speed dueling as well. So rather than adding new summoning mechanics to speed dueling, just add Deckmasters. Sorted. And number 3, we have the make stuff up as you go dueling style. First appearing in Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters episode 4. In the early episodes of Yu-Gi-Oh!, specifically everything that happened in Duelist Kingdom, a lot of shenanigans went on. So many, in fact, you could probably make a top 10 out of them and it would become your most viewed video. However, if we're being fair, the reason why there were so many deviations to the rules of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is because Duelist Kingdom was set before the actual Yu-Gi-Oh! Rules existed, so it was quite a bit different back then. For example, each player had 2000 life points to start, direct attacks were not allowed. Ending a turn with no monsters on the field and being unable to summon one would result in an instant loss. Monsters destroyed by card effects would inflict effect damage equal to half of that monster's attack to the owner as well. And only one monster was allowed to declare an attack per turn. However, on the plus side, you didn't need to tribute for high level monsters. That's pretty cool. Now that's not the reason why I like this type of dueling though. The biggest pull is that if you can explain how you did something with enough confidence, you can get away with just about anything. As long as you have the imagination to chat the world of bullcrap, you will succeed in Duelist Kingdom. The make stuff up as you go dueling is exemplified a lot in the anime, but the best one to go with for now, I will say, is Yugi versus Panic. Yugi is losing this duel. He is being oppressed, but he has the idea to use his catapult turtle to launch his monsters at Panic's Castle of Dark Illusions in order to destroy its flotation rings. Because, why not? Then, the castle, after its flotation rings are destroyed, doesn't fall straight away. This tricks Panic into thinking that, haha, Yugi, you failed. However, obviously, the reason it didn't fall was because the Swords of Revealing Light was holding the castle up in the sky while it was active. So, when its effect ended, it would fall on all of Panic's monsters below and skewer them because the castle had a spiky base. And you might be asking, why wouldn't the monsters underneath just move out the way if we're going realism? Well, it's obvious, isn't it? Because Panic activated another card and it trapped them all inside so they couldn't escape. Obviously. Now, there's a few other Duelist Kingdom duels I could talk about. For example, like, I don't know, Yugi and Mako's duel, which let's not open that can of worms, shall we?
Now, Stone Soldier, destroy the moon!
So yeah, I think this way of dueling would be quite fun. Yu-Gi-Oh meets Dungeons and Dragons, basically. Throw the rules out the window and duel using our imaginations. At number 2, we have Turbo Dueling, first appearing in Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's Episode 1. Turbo Duels, it boggles my mind that this hasn't been made into a real world thing yet. Check any Yu-Gi-Oh! Comment section, the demand is clearly there. People were genuinely sad when speed dueling was announced, and it turned out it wasn't the turbo duels. Literally, as soon as the equipment is ready to buy, everyone is going to flock to the DMV to apply for a motorbike license so they can own a D-wheel to duel on. I don't even know why I need to explain this one. It's card games on motorcycles. Make it happen, Konami. And finally, at number 1, we have Dungeon Dice Monsters, first appearing in Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters episode 47. Also known as Dragon Dice and Dungeons in the Japanese, which I guess would make it the first to use the abbreviation DDD in Yu-Gi-Oh! This spin-off dueling style is basically Yu-Gi-Oh! If it was in the form of a board game rather than a card game. It was created by Duke Devlin in the anime to be a completely different style of dueling to the classic dueling style. For instance, in Dungeon Dice Monsters, both players take it in turns to draw dice.
So it's just like Duel Monsters.
Then, you use those dice to summon holographic monsters to the field.
So it's just like Duel Monsters.
And both players get 3 heart points, and when they run out, the game is over.
So it's just like Duel Monsters.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged jokes aside, the game was a real unique treat to watch unfold in the anime. We were able to learn the mechanics of the game through Yugi, as it was his first time playing. We learned that when it all started, both players would choose 15 dice to serve as their deck from a pool of hundreds of dice. Each of the dice were color-coded based on the type of monster that it contained inside. White were spellcasters, blue were warriors, yellow was undead, green were beasts, and red was dragons. And there was also a special black die that had some unique abilities. Specifically, it had the ability to create a vortex that could teleport a monster from one side of the board all the way to another if 2 of them were used on the field. As well as the unique colours, the die would also have unique crests on each of the faces. Depending on what you rolled, you were able to instantly use one of the crests that you rolled, or to stockpile these resources in your bank. The different faces were Summon, Movement, Magic, Attack, Defense, and Trap. This game actually does have quite a few layers, so there's quite a bit to explain. Poor Yugi, when he dueled Devlin, he had to learn it all on the fly. So to summon a monster in Dungeon Dice Monsters, when you roll at the start of your turn, out of the 3 die that you roll, 2 out of the 3 of them need to roll a summon crest. As well, both of them need to be of the same level. If you manage this, you can summon a monster straight to the field. Higher level monsters were harder to summon as they had fewer summon crests on their sides, making them tougher to roll. The overall grand plan of the game is to summon your monsters to build a path to your opponent's heart points in order to get in range to attack them. I mean, there's loads more rules and unique things about Dungeon Dice Monsters with like the traps and the effects and the skills and things, but the reason why I like Dungeon Dice Monsters is because it really feels like a spin-off to the Yu-Gi-Oh! Game. It fits in the lore of the world because it has the actual monsters from Duel Monsters. As well, it uses many of the mechanics that you use in normal dueling, so it's not too hard to get to grips with the game. Plus, the uber rare red crested black die that can create portals and do all sorts of things that I'm not too sure about. It's one of my favourite things about this, as it happens at random, and even if you do get one of the black dies, like that excitement, you still have to roll the right roll in order to get the benefit of it. There are actually 2 real-world versions of this game that have been attempted. One is the 2001 Yu-Gi-Oh! Dungeon Dice Monsters video game for the Game Boy Advance. It's a really cool game that I would love to see an updated modern version of it. The other incarnation is the real-world Dungeon Dice Monsters that I would have bought for this video, but it costs over £200 off of Amazon, but it's still pretty damn cool. It comes with a physical board, coloured dice, figurines, and pathways. Oh, it's so damn cool. I really wished I could have experienced it before it became like this collector's item. So, Konami, can you please give me a new modern version of Dungeon Dice Monsters with like a bigger board, more figurines, and more monsters? In fact, I don't know what the company's called, but the company that made the Dark Souls board game, they make like fan board games, I think. So, can you guys make this, please? So yeah, what do you guys think? Should they make a Dungeon Dice Monsters 2019 version, or whatever year you're watching this? Do you think any of the other spin-off duels should have been higher up on the list? And are there any that I missed out? Let me know in the comment section below.